Chapter 6 is officially here, and I gotta say, man, this might be my favorite season of all time, at least from first impressions. In this video, I'm going to be talking about everything that's new and whether or not it's actually useful. So I'll be giving you best loadouts, talking about the new movement mechanics, everything. Let's hop into it. The first thing we're going to cover is the new weapons. The first thing you gotta know about weapons this season is they are back to being hit scan. What this means is there's no more bullet drop like in Chapter 5. So that brings us to our first gun, the Hollow Twister AR. This thing absolutely beams. I've killed so many people out of the sky. This thing is insanely accurate with very little recoil, which makes it maybe one of the best spray guns in the game at the moment. The next spray gun is the Fury AR. This gun is really good as well. It's really good at pressuring, but it doesn't have a scope and has a lot more recoil. Nevertheless, this gun is insane from the mid and close range, but that hollow gun is going to be the one that you use in tournaments to get those surge tags from far away. Moving on to the SMGs, we have the Veiled Precision SMG. This gun has a scope. Realistically, those ARs are going to be the better options in my opinion, but the SMGs definitely are not bad. The Surgefire SMG is a little weird. It's the one that speeds up over time, so the longer you're shooting it, the faster it'll shoot. Once again, it's not bad, but those ARs are definitely better in my opinion, at least from first impression and before they make nerfing changes, because Epic's definitely going to make some changes to the guns over the next few weeks. Moving on to the shotguns, the first one we got to talk about is the Twinfire Auto. This, in my opinion, is the worst of the shotguns. It hits the softest. It doesn't even shoot that fast for an auto shotgun. But yeah, overall, it's, you know, the typical situation. The auto shotguns are typically not going to be quite as good as the one pump shotguns. The next one is the Sentinel Pump. This gun is very good. From first impressions, it's definitely going to be personal preference of which shotgun you like the most. But on this first day, I've been liking the last shotgun, the Oni shotgun, the most. This gun only has 2 bullets in the chamber, but they hit the hardest. It feels the most like an actual pump shotgun, and yeah, this is my favorite so far. But again, test out the different shotguns for yourself and get a feel and choose the one you like the most. Something I've noticed is there's actually a lot of different OG guns, such as a suppressed pistol, a submachine gun. They're just scattered around the map. Definitely take the newer guns, they're better. Now we're moving into the more strange miscellaneous type items that Fortnite's added this season. The first ones we got to talk about are the masks. So there's a fire mask and a void mask. The fire mask hits pretty hard, but it's a little bit weird. I definitely wouldn't choose to carry this item, but somebody used this against me. It exploded and hit me for 100 damage. So I don't know, maybe there's some value in these, but at the start, I was not finding much use for them. But the void mask is going to be probably the main movement item. To use this, you toss one mask into the air and then you right click and it'll teleport you to wherever that mask is. So this is going to be the main movement item in this season, and it's even kind of useful in fights to surprise the enemy from various positions. Regarding movement, there's also shockwaves in pubs at least. I don't know if it's going to be in tourneys. In the patch notes, it actually says that every item is currently planned to be included in tourneys, but they'll change that over time. They've always taken shockwaves out of tourneys, so I guess we'll find out. The next somewhat movement item is the Typhoon Blade. A lot of people thought kinetic blades were going to be coming back, but it was actually this, the Typhoon Blade. It's not bad at all. This thing is actually really good in my opinion. If you don't find void masks, this could be the alternate option. When you have this Typhoon Blade out, you sprint much faster and you jump much higher. And you can dive downwards, which will strike any enemies below you and save you from fall damage. Additionally, you can also slash forward, which will break a ton of builds and damage opponents. Overall, this blade is actually really useful in a lot of different ways, such as playing high ground, you could save yourself from fall. But all in all, that void mask is probably the better option. We have a lot of the typical heals, such as mini, big pots, medkits, bandages. We still have fish as well, but now there are sprites, which are either healing items or movement items. So there's the air sprites, where if you throw those down, you actually get launched up into the air and you glide or redeploy. But there's a couple problems with this sprite. First off, I haven't found a way to pick it back up while using it, so it's looking like it's a one and done type item. You throw it once and you can't use it again. Additionally, with hit scan weapons being back, flying around isn't going to be a great option. I've already gotten beamed out of the sky before, but these can be a great way to get around in mid game because you can throw it down and then pick back up your water sprite or whatever other weapon you were holding. Next up is the water sprite. Now this is a healing item. It can heal you for 50 total health, but you can pick it back up afterwards. It heals you for a quick 30 HP and then heals you for an additional 20 very slowly. And it can heal your entire team. So definitely a good item. You can use it for a total of 3 times and they're basically everywhere around the map. The only problem is it heals you very slow and you can only use it 3 times. So other heals are probably going to be more valid, especially for heal-offs and stuff like that, but it can be a good option, especially in team-based game modes. Plus, they're like everywhere around the map, so it could be a quick way to heal up, just like cactuses were in the past. You just run around, throw one down, and move on. Lastly, there's also supposed to be earth sprites, which I have not been able to find any of these. It says in the patch notes that it consumes items for rewards. Now, these sprites have another use. You can take them to a shrine, and if you put the sprite in the shrine, you get major rewards. First off, you'll get a boon, which is basically like an augment. These boons are really useful. The fire boon reloads weapons faster. The void boon reveals enemy players when you get a knock. The wind boon makes you move faster when your pickaxe is equipped. And finally, the water boon heals you anytime you're swimming. These boons can also be found from the new special chests around the map, but you can get them from the shrine as well. Additionally, at these shrines, you can also get really good items, so definitely worth using these sprites at shrines, but the only thing is, if the shrine was already claimed, you can't use it, so that's a bit of a bummer. Now, what about mythics and medallions? The mythic items this chapter, of course, are insane. It seems like there's a mythic for pretty much every single gun, and you get them in various different ways. So the precision SMG, the one with the scope, you can get the mythic at Demon's Dojo. At that Demon's Dojo, you also can get the mythic void mask, and you can get the Night Rose medallion, which makes your weapons reload automatically. Pretty crazy spot. But there's an even crazier medallion. The Shogun X boss is the boss that spawns on the islands later on in the game. If you kill this boss, you can get the Wanderer medallion, which gives you infinite stamina and invisibility while sprinting. You also get the mythic Typhoon Blade from that island as well. One of the best mythics is the mythic Hollow Twister AR, the one with the scope. There's also a mythic pump, which supposedly does 200 damage. And like I said, mythics for all of the items, but I'm pretty sure they don't have a set spawn place. Again, you guys might have to tell me in the comments, but from what I've seen, you can get the other mythic guns by killing mini bosses around the map. But I fought one of these mini bosses, it was really hard to kill, and it glitched out and didn't give me any items. I was pretty butthurt. But those are all the medallions, items, everything you need to know. But in my opinion, what is the best loadout right now? Like I've said, keeping an AR is probably the better move over the SMGs. Me personally, to start out, I've been rocking the Oni shotgun, Hollow AR, Void Mask, and 2 sets of heals. That's probably what I'm going to be using in tournaments this season. Again, it's going to come down to personal preference, but day one, that's what's looking the best to me. I'll keep you guys posted. Now, we've got a lot more to talk about. I can't talk about all the new locations because there are so many POIs. What I can tell you though, there's almost double the amount of loot this season than there was in Chapter 5, which is just insane. So there's going to be so many good drop spots. It really depends on just what you want to prioritize. Are you going to prioritize some of those mythics, some of the medallions, maybe a shrine, maybe the train? There's so many options, but in my opinion, doesn't matter where you choose to land because there's so many good spots. It's going to be a mission trying to learn all these POIs because there's literally 18 of them. The biggest thing in my opinion for learning map knowledge at the start of the season is trying to figure out where center map is. So at various points in the game, check your map and figure out which direction center is. That'll help you figure out which way is north, south, east, and west, and where center map is all the time, and where the POIs are compared to the center of the map. Keep that in mind in the early season, but let's move on to the new mechanics. First off, maybe the most interesting new mechanic, which I'm sure a lot of you guys are wondering about. There's a new feature in your settings called Simple Edit, where instead of having to do the entire movement of every single edit and confirming it, you can just look in a specific place of a wall, ramp, or whatever you're trying to edit, and press the edit button, and the edit will automatically appear. I tested this out in creative, and I'm going to give you guys my feedback. If you're trying to become a competitive player, don't use this setting. But if you've always struggled with building and editing, this might be for you. The reason I don't recommend it to competitive players is because it's very limited for one. You actually lose the ability to make a lot of different edits, such as right and left windows, editing floors and cones in certain ways. It's very limited. But maybe an even bigger reason why I don't recommend it for competitive players is because it has a delay with resetting. You can no longer use scroll wheel reset if you use this setting. Instead, every single time you reset your wall, you actually have to hold down the edit button, which adds maybe like a 0.3 second delay, which is actually pretty critical. But like I said, if you've always struggled with building and editing, maybe give it a shot. Maybe it's for you. Moving on, we have ledge jumping, roll landing, wall kick, and wall scramble. None of these are all that useful, but they're not useful. So ledge jumping just makes you jump a little bit farther if you're jumping off a ledge or even on top of your cone, just the edge of something. something. You'll jump a little bit higher, a little bit farther. The roll landing feature gives you a little bit of your stamina back when you're landing, so that one could be worth getting used to. All you do is tap your jump button right before landing. Next up is wall kicking, where if you kind of run diagonal towards a wall, you can jump off of it. This can be good for off spawn, trying to get from building to building, like if you're landing in a city, but all in all, not the craziest feature, but it's kind of cool. And then wall scramble is a way to kind of run up a high wall and get up an extra box. From what I've seen, I think they got rid of those ledges that you could mantle up all the way to high ground, and this is the new feature. I could be wrong. So those are the new mechanics, nothing too crazy, but worth noting. Finally, let's move in briefly to the competitive tournaments. There's lots of videos out there explaining the formats in detail for FNCS and stuff like that, so I'm not gonna go into too much detail, but this is it in short. First off, instead of solo victory cups, we now have solo cash cups. I'm excited for these. It's top 600 make it to round 2, and round 2 is going to be on a whole separate day. Opens and finals are both 3-hour tournaments, and if you make the finals, you have to get top 25-ish to earn, depending on your region. When it comes to FNCS, it's now a divisional format, so you have to qualify into the proper division to compete in FNCS. The FNCS season is going to kick off with the FNCS Trial, which is December 7th, so get ready, it's coming up. That's the tournament that's going to place you in your division where you'll start for the rest of the season. And then you work on growing your way out of those divisions into the top division where the money prizes are. So yeah, all in all, I mean, my opinion of this season is so far 10 out of 10, and I don't say that often. Obviously, I'm being optimistic, but from my first impressions, I love the design, the weapons seem balanced, the tournaments seem new and exciting. I'm pretty pumped, and I got lots more content coming soon. Tutorials, tournament videos, everything on my 2 channels, Jivan TV and this channel, vibinjivan. Hope you guys enjoy the new season, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.